Don Rothman, The Oaks Mural, and A Remarkable Teaching Moment by Dave Dodson. For nearly 15 years, I was Don Rothman's colleague at Oaks College. Don was a senior lecturer in the writing program and presided over the development and direction of the Oaks Corps for 34 years. In many ways, Don was an extraordinary teacher, but as I will relate, he could also be an amazingly wise administrator. The current collective museum on the UCSC campus tells only part of the story of Don's influence as a teacher and administrator. As Don's colleague, I would like to provide, through some additional videos, a more complete account of Don's remarkable skills in helping students to explore the deeper meaning of a work of art. During the 1991-92 year, Don was serving as the interim provost at Oaks College. Just prior to his term, the university received a large bas-relief sculpture from a local benefactor. Entitled America, undoubtedly the benefactor thought the sculpture portrayed an idealistic notion of what an immigrant might feel on becoming an American citizen. The sculpture's iconic figures of the Statue of Liberty and Eureka from the California State Seal are clearly intended to illustrate the acceptance of foreign children as Americans. Their journey to the Promised Land is portrayed in the stylized Chinese junk and European sailing ship. But a closer inspection of the children reveals that they are stereotypical images of Asian, African American, and European children. It took a few weeks after the mounting of the sculpture on the landing between the second and third floors of the Oaks Administration Building before students began to notice it and register their objections. Some critical post-it notes were the first evidence of student dissatisfaction. They indicated students' growing sentiment that the sculpture presented a patronizing and totally inaccurate picture of the immigrant experience. The sculpture displays an ignorance of the Chinese Exclusion Act, the Holocaust experience of African slaves, and the virulent prejudice which greeted Southern Europeans and Soviet Jews upon their arrival at Ellis Island. Even under the most positive interpretation, this mural is paternalistic, conveying a paternalistic and imperialistic approach to immigration, and completely ignoring the suffering which immigrants experienced. Within a short time, students organized a concerted movement against the sculpture, demanding that it be removed from the Oaks admin building. When a delegation met with Provost Rothman, they outlined their objections, which he listened to attentively. This is the moment which so graphically illustrates Don's skills as a teacher and administrator. His students often described the remarkable way in which he opened their minds to a new line of thinking or a bold new idea. He often astounded students by saying, "What if we thought of this issue in this new way?" And that is exactly what happened after he patiently heard the students' complaints about the sculpture. He asked, "If you had it in your power, what type of artwork would more accurately portray your feelings about the immigrant experience?" This caught the student delegation by complete surprise. They didn't know how to respond. So Provost Rothman asked them to give some thought to constructing a mural which they would like displayed at Oaks, a mural which would provide a more accurate account of the immigrant experience. In the meantime, Don Rothman contacted a noted muralist, Juana Alicia, and asked if she would consider painting a mural at Oaks which she and the Oaks students would design. Using funds from the Oaks endowment, Juana Alicia was commissioned to develop the eloquent statement which now fills the wall of the Oaks seminar room, just a few feet from the sculpture which students found so objectionable. After several meetings and suggestions, the students and Juana Alicia developed a plan and a sketch of the mural. It would portray some of the students who were actually part of the group which had objected to the offensive bas-relief, but it also included images of the figures of the Oaks students which they had chosen as the names of the Oaks residence halls and apartments. Elie Wiesel, Frida Kahlo, Malcolm X, Betty Shabazz, Maxine Hong Kingston, Dolores Huerta, and Stephen Biko. The mural was named The Promise of Loma Prieta, that history will not repeat itself, and several students worked with the muralist Alicia to complete it. When it was finished, the entire Oaks community was moved by the passion and vision it so dramatically conveyed. The gray walls with the images of police and KKK Klansmen and the barbed wire being parted by an Oaks student describe the challenges students face. Now, almost 25 years after its completion, members of the Oaks community and visitors are inspired by the portrayal of the struggles students from underrepresented communities encounter in receiving an education at UCSC. It has become the spiritual and psychological center of the Oaks community. We owe Provost Rothman a profound debt for helping the Oaks community to understand how important it is to listen to your own heart and develop means for expressing the hopes you nurture. He taught us that it is not sufficient to object to opinions which offend. You must also take the pains to state what it is that you most fervently believe. Unhappily, Don Rothman died in his sleep, much too young, on November 28, 2012. But his legacy still lives on. A small memorial to his leadership and his influence remembers his continuing impact on the Oaks community and the UCSC community as a whole. It contains these eloquent words: "This rock is dedicated to the memory of our dear friend, colleague, beloved teacher of writing, former provost, dreamer, and visionary, Don Rothman." It also repeats this principle was at the heart of Don Rothman's commitment as a teacher and academic leader. We write to avoid the humiliation of silence in the face of cruelty and injustice. It was my privilege to count Provost Rothman as my good friend and colleague, and I want to ensure that the UCSC community continues to celebrate his legacy. I'm Dave Dodson, former college administrative officer and a lecturer in the Oaks Core course.